Welcome to the Limitless Entrepreneur Podcast, your weekly dose of strategies and mindset tools to build a business in alignment with your purpose and to get you playing a bigger game. I'm your host, Nicole. Hello and welcome to the Limitless Entrepreneur Podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Nicole, and we are here with a solo little shorty episode for you here on this Monday morning. I'm excited to be here talking about this. This is a question I hear a lot, and I'm just excited to dive into it with you guys. And first, let me just run through a couple of things that we have going on right now. We have 2 free guides that are available for you guys. We have the Flow-Ductivity Guide, which is all about being more productive while remaining in flow. So not just hustle. How do you let go of the hustle without letting go of the results? This guide will help get you there. These are those first few steps that you can take using and harnessing your human design so that you can achieve more flow, greater results without working more. You can get that at nicolelano.me/productivity. We also have a deconditioning guide, which is all about getting into alignment and getting rid of those nasty habits that are keeping us stuck. And that is all by design. It is a human design deconditioning guide. So we walk you through how to get each of your open centers into alignment. And that you can get at nicolelano.me/decondition. And if you're ready to jump in with a paid offer, if you're ready to really jump into your design and get something that's really tailored to you, you've done a lot of research, you've listened to podcasts, you've downloaded and looked at every Instagram carousel post on human design, and you're still like, how does this work for me? Well, we can help you with that. You can book a reading with me over on my website as well. And we'll link all of this up in the show notes for you. But you can grab that and you can dive in with me, a 90-minute reading where we dive into your design, your specific design. It's really exciting. So I hope you take me up on one of those offers, and I hope I get to meet you soon. But let's dive into this episode, shall we? This is a question that I get a lot, and I hear it in lots of different ways, and it usually sounds something like this. It usually sounds like, I'm defined in this center, meaning, and remember, definition is colored in on your chart, and white is undefined. We consider that undefined. You might say, I'm defined in this center, but I resonate with the not self theme or the conditioning of the undefined center. So I hear that a lot. Like people will say like, oh, well, I have a defined ego, but I feel like I'm not enough all the time. Totally normal. And I'm going to explain to you exactly why this happens. So the greater question here is, can a defined center be conditioned? And the answer is yes, we just call it something different. So we're not really calling it necessarily conditioning. We look at it a bit differently. I look at it as unhealthy. There's an unhealthy expression of your definition. Now, remember, we're going to recap a little bit about what definition is. So defined, anything on your chart, whether it's a gate, those are the numbers, and all 64 numbers all over your chart, that's gates. Anything that's colored in, a gate that's colored in, a channel, those are all those roads connecting all the centers together. If that is colored in, you have a defined center there. If any of the shapes, any of the 9 big shapes on the body graph are colored in, then you are defined in those centers or in those centers. Now, definition, what we tend to think is definition means good. Like, oh, you have so much definition. Now, what that means is you've got a lot of consistent energy, meaning where we're defined, we're meant to put out. We're meant to like put that out in the world. And I got to say, a lot of the people who are, you might have the power to do a lot if you are very defined. I'm fairly defined in my chart. But that can also lead to a fair amount of anxiety. That can lead to a lot of energy that it can be difficult to channel. That's kind of the process there. How do we channel all of it? And then where we're white in the chart, that's where we say that we can be conditioned because it's open. We're open to other people's definition of what we should be. And you can think about definition in the way that we just talked about it, or definition more broadly, like the way that we talk about things, the way that we define stuff. So where we're white in the chart, that's where we're taking in other people. We're receiving in these centers. We are open to new things and new ways in these centers. What definition really is, I want to be very clear. Definition does not mean good. Definition does not mean better. If you have a big old white chart, if you're a reflector, gorgeous beauty in that. It's just your process is going to be different. If you're very defined in your chart, I've had clients that have had all 9 centers defined, and that results in something else. Yes, a very driven person typically. It's all relative, and it's all very, very individualized, because they might have variables that all point right. All of those arrows might point right. So they might be a little more laid back. It's so differentiated in the chart. But if you have a really defined chart, you might have a lot of definition, a lot of energy to put out in the world. But defined does not mean good. What defined means is consistent. You have consistent access to that energy. You have consistent presence of that theme. So if you have the G center, the theme is self-love, identity, purpose, direction. You have consistency in that. Consistency meaning fixed, meaning there is a way, a particular consistent way, a fixed way that you experience that. Now, when we're thinking about that in terms of alignment, in terms of whether it can be healthy or not, I want you to think about, like, we often go to the white centers and we're like, oh, well, that's where all the work is to be done. And true, we want to make sure that everything is clean. But the white space is actually what you're going to experience in lots of ways. So that might be really negative on one day and potential for positivity the next day, because you're fluid in those places. You can move and change. And as long as you're not thinking you should be something else consistently, then you're able to move. I have a wide open ajna. Some days I'm horribly distracted. And I might be, in the very beginning, I was very concerned with being certain. And with an open ajna, I'm kind of never going to feel that certainty in the way that I think and the ideas that I have. It's just going to be these kind of bursts of genius, of really open-minded, out-of-the-box ways of seeing things. It's part of what makes me great at what I do. I look at human design very differently. I don't have a very fixed way of looking at it. I'm always looking at these things from other angles. It's a strength. But I might be distracted one day, and the next day I might be incredibly creative, and I'm able to focus. It moves, it changes. Where we're defined, you're going to see a more fixed, consistent way of experiencing that. Now, I want you to think about that if it's unhealthy. If it's unhealthy, this is where, if it's unhealthy, like I use the example of the defined ego that feels like it's not enough, well, then you're consistently feeling it's not enough. Low frequency is consistent for you there, and you're putting it out, and it feels like it should be you. So unhealthy centers can be a huge just drain on your energy and detrimental in your life if you're living in out of alignment in your defined centers. So when I work with people on getting you into alignment and working with your design and getting you on track with living by your design and being the fullest and most authentic expression of yourself, I'm looking at deconditioning your open space, of course. Where did somebody tell you should be these things consistently and you're not? How do we move out of that, and how do we bring that into a clean open space so that you can feel and receive everything you're meant to receive there? I'm making sure you're following strategy and authority. I'm making sure you're in alignment with your profile, with the role you're here to play, that you're stepping into who you are. And I'm looking at healing your definition. Healing your definition is crucial because, like I said, it's consistent. We don't want it to be consistently bad. We want to make sure it's consistently strong. It has potential to be a strength. It doesn't mean that it inherently is, because we all grew up in a world and we all had experiences. Our lived experience affects what we are, the expression of our chart. But that expression is going to be different. Defined means that you're going to be, if you're in a healthy expression of your G center, self-love, identity, purpose, direction, love of the body, love of spirit, all of these things, I go through that and I make sure that, is this in a healthy expression if I see definition there? If there's definition in your G center, it's like, okay, well, let's make sure that we're in a good place with this. Otherwise, you're going to be, the G center, you're going to be pulling all sorts of lessons and not so great things to you. But we get that G center in alignment and suddenly you're pulling the right stuff to you. You're magnetizing the right things. You're magnetizing the purpose that you've aligned with. But let me give you an example. So if your spleen, it's the center of intuition, right? It's the center of intuition. It's the center that tells you body awareness, what is safe, right, and good for me in this moment? What is healthy for me? Now, someone who has a defined spleen, and I can speak from my experience, I have a defined spleen, very defined spleen. I have a defined spleen. And for a long time, I was like, I don't feel like I can really tune into my intuition. I don't feel like I know what's healthy, safe, and good for me. I feel very fearful. I feel very out of alignment in this, in being able to take any sort of spontaneous action. Well, one thing is I'm an emotional authority, so I'm not meant to be spontaneous. So I had to let go of that a little bit. I'm not meant to be spontaneous all the time. I'm meant to have this more of an inner feeling into things. But what I had to go through was I had low frequency of the gates that I had in the spleen, and I had to heal those, and I had to bring those into alignment in order for me to have a healthy relationship with my defined spleen. I had to bring it into a healthy expression, and we do that by fine-tuning, like we would the strings of a guitar, to make sure that we're getting the sound that we want. So that's the process that we go through. And I wanted to bring this up because I hear from so many people, like I hear that, like, I really resonate with the thing that's not me. And there's reasons for that. We have a different process of correcting that and bringing it into alignment, whether you are defined and it's unhealthy, whether you are undefined and it's conditioned. We go through different processes, and me, with the way that I do things, I have a million different ways that I can show you and teach you to get you there, which I think is what makes me special. And it's me using my design in alignment for me and for what I do. So I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that this was a nice, quick little episode for you to get some goodness for your week. And you're taking a look at your chart in a new way this week, and you look at it, take a look at your chart. Send me a message on Instagram. Take a little screenshot of this episode here on your phone and put it into your Instagram stories. Let me know what you think of your definition. Do you feel like any of your centers are in an unhealthy expression? I'd love to hear your reaction to whether this episode was helpful and how you're taking the information that you learned here and applying it to your design. And remember, you can download the free float activity guide at nicolelano.me/productivity. You can download the free deconditioning guide at nicolelano.me/decondition. And you can book a reading with me on my website at nicolelano.me. Just go to the work with me section, and then you can find the human design reading there if you want to dive into your unique design. If you have any other questions about anything that I have to offer, please just send me a message in Instagram and I will get back to you. Listen, guys, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you listening all the way to the end of this episode. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And remember, you're only limited by the limitations that you accept. And when you stop accepting those limitations, that's when you become limitless. So go out there and be limitless, everyone. I will see you in the next episode. If you loved this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you want to stay in touch with us, we would love to have you as a part of our Facebook community, Practical Manifestors. It's a community for process-driven women looking for clear and actionable steps to embodying a life of wealth and alignment. Join us at Practical Manifestors in Facebook or go to www.innerceogroup.com.